Achdus, togetherness, caring for our fellow Jew is something that's on our mind during this period, during this time of Sphira. With the incident that took place last week, the tragedy that took place in California, and this week, with the commemoration of Yom HaZikaron, remembering all of Israel's fallen soldiers, the victims of terror, as well as the celebration of Yom HaAtzmaut, the 71st anniversary of the birth of the State of Israel, we realize that while there are so many in the world that hate us, we have an obligation to love each other, to be connected, to be united despite whatever differences we may have. And the Torah commands us in Parshas Kedoshim, Lo sisna es achicha bilvavecha, we should not hate our brother in our heart. But that's not all. The Pasuk continues and says, Hocheach tochiach es amisecha, that we should give tochacha, we should give rebuke to someone who may have hurt us. Velo sisa alav chet, and we shouldn't place a chet, a sin, upon them. So how are we to understand? I've always found it challenging what it means to not hate someone in our heart. How do we absolve ourselves of that hatred? Well, sometimes we're angry at someone. Sometimes someone does something that hurts us. And anger, if it's left to ferment, eventually can become hatred. So listen to how the Ramban explains this pasuk. He says that if a person does something to their friend which offends them, Al tisna es achicha bilvavecha, don't have sinna, don't have hatred. Well, how do you not have hatred? The only way to not have hatred is to address it, to speak about it, to give tochacha, to give rebuke. And it's very important. When doing so, when telling someone, you may have offended me, if we do so in one way, we may put the person in a defensive posture and we won't be able to really connect with them and have them understand how sincerely hurt we were. But if we approach it benachas, if we approach it in a calculated, soft way, then we're able to touch the heart of the other person and they're able to see how they hurt us. So the Ramban continues and says that if you give them tochacha, if you give them rebuke in this way, velo sisa alav chet, then they won't have the sin. What's the sin? The sin is that if I don't get it out, if I don't speak to them, if I don't resolve my anger toward them, I'm eventually going to have hatred in my heart that I'm going to cover. As the Ramban says, L'chasos sinaso b'libcha v'lo tagidlo, to cover the anger, to cover the hatred in my heart, and then I say, yeah, I just don't speak to that person anymore. I'm not going to tell them, but I don't speak to them anymore. Well, I'm still bearing it, I'm still holding on to it, and eventually it becomes hatred in my heart. Rather, he says, that what a person should do is that a person should recognize, should mention it to someone so that that person can make amends. V'acharei ken, he says, yazhir shelo tinkom mimenu v'lo titor belibcha masha asalach. And when we get closure on what took place, then we should make sure that we don't bear a grudge, that we don't take revenge, and ultimately then we'll be able to fulfill the mitzvah of not hating a fellow Jew. There is so much hatred of our people. We need to instill within our people a sense of unity which is founded and grounded in the love that we have for each other. Despite all that may be out there, which may try to divide us, ultimately Hashem wants His children not only to get along, but to find the beauty within each and every one of us, within each one of our factions, that we can love about each other. Thank you for listening, and have a good Shabbos.